Hi, welcome to Board Games and Coffee. Today we're going to talk about signs it's time to get rid of a board game. I'm going to open with a survey that I asked my subscribers earlier this week. I'll pull that up. So I asked which of the following is most likely the reason you remove a board game from your collection. And the number one answer was it was probably never a great purchase decision to begin with. Now, as a reviewer, this really struck me. I almost feel responsible for this, that people are buying games that they think aren't a good purchase. But I'm going to talk about that at the end of this episode. What I've done today is I've organized this discussion into 4 signs, and this is interactive. If you'd like to ask questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the comments, and I will address them at the end of this video. But for some people who maybe you don't have games that you would even think about getting rid of, maybe you have 3 games on your shelf or 6 games or something, and you're like, get rid of games? Why would I get rid of games? I love my 6 games. And for those of you who are in that position, I envy you, because I remember what it was like when I got started, and every game was exciting. It was so cool that I got to have 10. I remember when I had 10 board games. I was like, wow, my collection is big. But the reality is that this hobby is much like collecting CDs in the 90s. But the difference is there are no MP3 players that will save you, where you can just discard that entire collection, because the hobby is in its nature physical, tactile, and takes place in meat space. You can't, yes, you can play board games online, and I play board games online, but that's no replacement to the experience of sitting down with people at a table and playing board games. So, as it is, my collection grows and grows. I think right now in my house, I probably have about 250. So, what are the signs that it may be time to get rid of some board games? I'm going to kind of outline what these signs are, and then I'll describe in detail some of the board games I have as examples, and also what it is that will rescue these games from being donated or given away or discarded. So, the first sign is time passes. The second sign is it gets demoted from its position on the shelf. The third sign is analysis, and the fourth sign is identification of an exit. So, the first sign, time passes. This can happen almost without knowing it. One day, you realize that it's been a really long time since you last played a game, and you don't know when you're going to play it next. So I looked at all my board games. I think the game that I haven't played in the longest amount of time may be 5 Tribes. Now, why have I not played 5 Tribes? I'll talk about that when I get to analysis. But the thing that rescues a game from this stage, this sign, and its process, is those people who love the game, who keep requesting that you bring it out. So for me, that game is Quacks of Quedlinburg. I don't like Quacks of Quedlinburg at all. I have it out of the way where no one can see it, and yet my kids love Quacks of Quedlinburg. They ask me, Dad, can we play that game with the potions? So that's how that goes. The next sign, though, is demoted position. Now, this is where the games go from the favored position on the shelf down below, out of sight, or up in a cabinet where you won't notice it at all. But there's a really interesting aspect that influences our connection, that influences our organization, and can rescue a game from this stage. And that is either its look, the look of the box, or how it appears, how it fits on the shelf. I can give you an example. Another game that I don't play a lot is Mariposas. And this is a game about butterflies. It's got this gorgeous box. The whole game, the board is beautiful. Butterflies and flowers. And quite frankly, we don't get rid of it because my wife loves it. It's in our living room. It's like absolutely on display, front and center. And I've told her several times, I'm ready to get rid of Mariposas, and she's like, no, not that one, that one's so pretty, so pretty. The other ones, though, like for me, in terms of where it fits on the shelf, I've got Alley Cat Games up here. I can't see Alley Cat Games. I've got Carino Games down here. I've got Game Brewer Games over there. The logo, it just looks so nice. They're all lined up there. Chocolate Factory? I haven't played Chocolate Factory in a long time, but it looks so nice next to Eternal Palace. So this can rescue it from its demoted position. The next sign or stage is analysis. This is where it's been such a long time since you last played the game that you're now asking, why? Why do I not want to play this game? Ooh, thanks for the warning. Someone's like, you might hit your coffee. Elbow. All right. So for this, I went through my purgatory shelf, the games that I haven't decided whether to keep them or get rid of them. I wrote down all of them, and then I described them in categories. And I think the categories are different for everyone. I'm not saying that, like, you're going to have the same categories too, but for me, I've got 6 categories. And they are 1. Games that lack arising action. 2. Games that are too drawn out. 3. Games that aren't worth the teach. 4. Games that are replaced by another game with similar rules. 5. Games that require either a special person or a special group to play with. And 6. Games that I just don't like. So, some examples. Now, by the way, I'm not going to be able to go through all of these games and like describe why I don't like them. And many of these games I do like. I like them a lot. There are design elements that I admire. Some of these games I have given a positive review for. Now, when I review games, I try to give like the caveat, like, oh, this is a great game as long as blah, or, you know. So just because they're on my list here doesn't mean that I would necessarily retract something I've said about it in the past. But nevertheless, I haven't been playing in a long time. So first, games that lack arising action. What I mean by that is that these are just games that are a flat experience. It's the same thing, turn after turn. There's not the exciting like climb of working towards something. And actually, if you watch the previous episode, I talked about what makes a game addicting. These are games that do not have those factors. So, School of Sorcery, Holotype, Insecta, Mariposas, Luxor, Chocolate Factory, Her Story, Picture Perfect, Yak. I don't know if you're going to know all those games. Many of them are family games, by the way, and I think that's one of the risks with family board games. Family board games, in order to be accessible to people of all ages, they're often very easy, and then they lack a rising action. The thing that rescues any of these games, though, is that some of them have a very unique mechanic or aesthetic. So, unique mechanic, for example, I'm just going to talk about Luxor, just as an example. Luxor is a game where you're moving around a pyramid, you're finding treasures in this pyramid, and to move, you play cards, cards from your hand. So you have 5 cards, and the thing is, you can only ever play the card on the left or the extreme right. You can't shuffle the cards around in your hand. So let's say you play the card on your left. When you draw a new card, you put that one in the middle of the 4 cards that are remaining. So you always have 5 cards. There's always 2 on each side, and every new card gets added to the middle. So as you pull from left side or right side, you have to plan what you want to play next. Like, it's such a cool mechanic. It's such a cool decision-making space. But it's sort of a slow playthrough. Maybe, and the other thing is, I gotta say, I do play these games with my kids. I bought them to play as family games. There's a difference between playing with children who can kind of drag a game out more, and then adults who can kind of get the right pacing. But anyway, I digress. Next category is games that are too drawn out. I could have grouped these first two categories together, but the thing is, these definitely have a rising action, and then the end is like kind of agonizing for me. I just wish it would be over. So I wrote down 2, and there's more that I'm going to talk about when I get to stage 4, the identification of an exit, but because I've already gotten rid of the other games. 2 games, Everdell and Flamecraft. Now, those games you probably know about. I've given the worst review I've ever given for any game when I reviewed Flamecraft. And Everdell, I'm always comparing to Everdell. It's like old news now. So next category, games that aren't worth to teach. These are games, hold on. I get excited and I go too fast. All right. Games that aren't worth to teach. So these are games that I like. I like them a lot. Well, maybe not a lot. I don't like them enough to teach people to play them. And maybe that's because the rules are finicky. Maybe because there's too many things to do. Like, there are games that I don't like teaching, but the games are so good that I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to teach it anyway because once we play this game, it's going to be awesome. One such example is Oak, which, oh, by the way, Oak is from Game Brewer. Game Brewer is shutting its doors, and they're doing everything on sale. So, Oak is going on sale. Trolls and Princesses, all that stuff. You might want to check that out. Anyway, Stroganoff, which is also by Game Brewer. Too complicated. And 5 Tribes. I mentioned that earlier. I like 5 Tribes. I like everything about the mechanic, which is kind of this Mancala movement-based mechanic. But the problem with 5 Tribes is the cards. Once you get to the cards, I hate the cards. You've got bidding, you've got movement, you've got like special spaces and how they all score, and then on top of and then you've got purchasing that you do, and then you've got cards. And by the time I'm teaching the cards, I'm like, just bear with me, guys. Like, it's too much. I used to play this game with my child, but we just didn't play with the cards. Oh, and we didn't. I don't think we played with bidding either. We just like stripped it down to its core mechanic, which I actually love. Now, if you're wondering, there is a replacement. I think Crusaders gets the same sort of mechanic, but isn't a pain to teach. All right, next category: games that are for a particular group. So these are games that I haven't played in a long time. If I was like doing this on a gradient, I would say that at the beginning of my list, when I was talking about games that lack a rising action, earlier I was talking about games that I sort of, if I could say, dislike the most. And as I accelerate, I'm going towards the end. These are games that I like even more. I like these games even more, and yet I still don't play them because it's just hard to get a group around the table. So, oh man, Alban Viard, him with his Small City and Clinic. I love these games. I haven't played Clinic in like a year and a half. I got the Kickstarter for the deluxe version of Small City because I think this game is so cool, and I've never played it because the rules are too much of a pain and I don't have the time to teach it and the group to get around the table. Not yet, at least. I'm still growing my group here in Okinawa. Small City Clinic. Bazaars of Ubar. I reviewed that game recently. I said I liked it, and I also said I was the person at the table who liked it most. No one liked it as much as me. It's like a trading game. And then another game that I love this game. I love On Mars. But I haven't played On Mars for like 2 years. Because it's so many rules. It's so many rules. And the turns that you take in that game are long. You've got to be with a group of people that just love technical games. I could probably think of more, but I wrote down 4. And actually, I got some more that I already got rid of, which I will talk about. Then there's games with similar rules. These are games that are probably great games, but there are better games to play. Like, Gorio. Gorio's an Italian game. I would rather play Mind Management. Everdell. I already mentioned Everdell, but I won't play Everdell again because Wondrous Creatures is just so much better. Wingspan. Okay, I actually think Wingspan is really cool. Wingspan doesn't go on forever and ever, but I'm not going to play it because I would rather play Earth. Earth is much better. Quest for El Dorado. Again, solid mechanic. Would rather play Life of Amazonia. And Skull King. I bought Skull King because I thought it was cool, and I've never played it because I would rather just play Wizard. The extra rules in Skull King aren't worth it. It's like to add a little bit more chaos. I would rather just play Wizard, which has been around since, what, the 70s, the 80s? Anyway. Lastly, so those are the games. Now, games I don't like. Just don't like it. Quacks of Quedlinburg. I do not like Quacks of Quedlinburg. And I also always lose Quacks of Quedlinburg. Okay, so step or sign 4. The identification of an exit. Alright, this is like how you know. Like the other ones are like leading up to. Here is the sign you know it's time to get rid of the game. Alright, if this happens to you, you get rid of the game. You're like, what? What could it be, right? It's awesome. Check this out. It's when you find the right person or group to give the game to. Here, what I'm saying. My best friend's kids are in high school now. His oldest son wants to start a board game club at school. I happily gave him like 5 games. I can't think of a better reason to get rid of games than because you are passing on the hobby to someone else and you know they'll like it. I was overjoyed to give away these games, and they were cool games. So these are the games I said I wasn't going to talk about until the end. I gave away Dominant Species. I gave away Terra Mystica. Those are big games. Now, my criticism of those games, the reason I don't play them anymore, is because those games get drawn out. I think that they're too long, but they're awesome games. They were thrilling when I first played them. I gave them to a high school kid to start a board game club at school. I got rid of Cactus Town and Dice Throne, which I could talk about. I just don't like them. Okay, I'm just gonna say I don't like them. Dice Throne, Cactus Town, and then I got rid of Evolution, which is another awesome game. Evolution is. Why Evolution? Because I think it takes a special group. Evolution is very competitive, right? It's you're literally destroying each other on purpose. For a guy with 3 sons to be able to like fight through Evolution, I think that's awesome. I don't really want to play Evolution anymore. Okay, so hope you get your questions ready. This is the last section that I've prepared. I want to go back to that survey. So the survey, again, was... Let's put that back on here. The number one reason that people wanted to get rid of games was because it was probably never a great purchase to begin with. And I followed that one up with, okay, if it's not a great purchase to begin with, then why? Why did you buy it? So I asked, why do you buy games? Which factor has the biggest influence on buying a game? And the number one answer, I watch or read a reviewer's opinion. Wow. It's like a big responsibility. So here's the way that I'm connecting that. If you are watching reviewers to get their opinion, and then you're going out and buying games, and then you find out that the games were never that great of a purchase to begin with, then that means that something's wrong with the reviewers. Now listen, these are 2 different surveys. It's not, one doesn't cause the other, right? It could be that every one of the games that reviewers recommend is awesome, and it's only the games that you can seek a reviewer's opinion that you feel like was never a great purchase to begin with. That could be the fact. I don't know. But that's like, I mean, still, look at how many people that was. This was like 49% of people. There were 4 answers there. Almost half of them said it was because of reviewer's opinion that they buy a game. And then 68% of people think it's never a great purchase to begin with. So that makes me wonder, what are we going to do in episode 3 next week, where we'll talk at the same time? I almost feel like talking about, do board game reviewers suck? I don't know. the way that works is, though, we do a poll. We do a poll every week to see what the next episode is about. So stay tuned for that. I'm now going to move to questions. And to set up, my screen's way over there. I don't know. Some of you don't even realize I wear glasses. Okay. Best reason to get rid of games and not feel about it. Giving it to others to help them discover the hobby or different game genres. Alright, that was not a question. Let me go over to the Discord too. Okay, here's a question. What about collector's edition or big box games, Kickstarter exclusives, etc.? Do you have games that you've invested to that to serve as a feature in your collection? Do I want to get rid of those? Okay, collector's editions, Kickstarter exclusives. So, truth be told, oh man, I've got two Kickstarter games that I haven't played since they have arrived. I played them before I had the Kickstarter, and then I didn't play them afterwards. One of those was Small City, which I told you about. The other one was Hamlet, which I have got to play Hamlet. That's not on the purgatory shelf. That's on the shelf of shame. It has a pick up and deliver mechanic, which I really enjoyed. And then I played a different pick up and deliver game. I played Acrotiri with a friend. And I was like, oh, this was lame. I really didn't like this. And then because I didn't enjoy playing Acrotiri, which I think it was the friend I played with, not so much the game itself, I was like, well, I don't want to... I want to play something else for now. And then Hamlet arrived in the mail, and it was pick up and deliver, and I was like, oh, I don't want to play that because I don't want to play pick up and deliver games. That's the stupidest... This is how things end up on the shelf of shame. Maybe I could do an episode about that. No good reason. I am so far off on addressing this question. It's okay, because there's not a lot of questions. So, do I let that influence? Yeah, I do. Because you know what? I don't think I want to get rid of Wingspan or Everdell. I mean, I don't even have Kickstarter or big box editions, but they're just incredible, landmarks in the board game hobby. It would be like getting rid of, Smells Like Teen Spirit or something. Like, if you were collecting CDs and, the cover art for that Nirvana album. It's, too iconic to get rid of. So, I would say, I don't have a lot of collector's editions. I don't have a lot of big boxes. I do have a big box of Dominion, which I also don't want to ever get rid of, because Dominion was this pivotal moment where I got my family into board games. My wife plays board games today because we started by playing Dominion. So that's special. And as long as I have so many games, I may as well keep games like that around. So yeah, that is a factor, and I do think that it's worth keeping games around for nostalgia. Ooh, I like this question. Do you have a game that breaks your rules, but you still decide to keep, and why? I think the answer is yes. I wish I had. Man, that's a good one. I wish I had time to prepare for that one. Okay. Okay, so there... I don't know. I think I kind of went over all of the things that save a game. So here's an example of one that I've thought about getting rid of, and I still haven't gotten rid of it. It's, I don't know if this is the best example. Ooh, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis doesn't have a rise or fall. I should get rid of photosynthesis. I think I tried to sell it on Board Game Geek. Okay, let's think about... What about a game... I was going to say Praga Caput Rainy. Praga Caput Rainy is such a pain to explain. It seems so dry. It's another game that's really cool to play on Board Game Arena, because the maintenance of the game is done automatically for you, and the visibility of things that will cost and the results of doing different things are more clear in online implementations. And there are some games oh man, I like playing Wingspan on Board Game Arena. I complain about it sometimes, but like, it's such a swift game when maintenance is done for you, and that's a factor that I didn't think about. But I keep Prague Capitalini around because I see it as like a love letter to the city of Prague. I think the game is just such a beautiful piece of art. But I also kind of feel like I said that already. Like, games, I keep them around for their aesthetic. I got another question. It is, do you have times where you've gotten rid of a game and regretted it? Oh, what games were they? I have not gotten rid of enough games. There is. Okay. There is a game that I've kind of got rid of. So my story is, I think I've said this before. We're a military family. And so we're always moving around. Before this, we lived in Bethesda, Maryland. Before that, we were in Japan again. Now I'm in Japan again. But I do have a house. I do have a house in San Diego. And so what I did, when we moved from San Diego, we rented on Airbnb. And I thought it would be cool to leave a bit of a board game collection in San Diego, so that when people saw the photographs of the house, and they'd be like, oh, look at this photograph of their living room. They have board games on their shelves. Oh, look I know that game and that game. That's so cool. This guy's a board game player. Like, let's go stay at that house. Like, I don't know if that's ever been a factor on someone's decision, but I wanted to leave that piece of me behind in San Diego. So I left Agricola behind in San Diego, and I regret that. I left it behind because it was so recognizable. It was like number 1 or number 2 on Board Game Geek for a long time. I thought it would like have an impact. There's no way the people in my Airbnb are getting Agricola out, reading the rules, like learning the game, and playing it and being like, oh, I love it. I'm so glad that Agricola is here in this Airbnb. There's no way that's happening, especially in a place like San Diego. They could be going to SeaWorld. They could be going to the beach. They're not playing Agricola. It was stupid to leave it behind. I just need to get it and bring it back. It's like, gosh, I bought it in like 2010. I've had it for years. It's like a special, cool edition of the game. I want Agricola back. But at least I didn't actually get rid of it. Okay. And I think that's it for questions. Yes. So, thank you again for watching. I would like you to know that this is now a podcast. So, if you like listening in and you don't necessarily want to watch the video, watch my mad facial expressions as I lose my cool over some board game that I'm freaking out about, you can get the podcast on all the different podcasts things. It's called Board Games and Coffee. No surprise there. And if you're a subscriber, you'll probably see the polls as they go out this week about the next episode. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.